Right, today we continue with our study of the Satipatthana Sutta, M10. We look at the Kayanupassana today. Yeah? Just for a quick recap, for those who missed the first part, Satipatthana means focus of mindfulness. If you want to know more details of the definition, you can go back and watch the first recording, the first video. So there are 4 focuses of mindfulness, right? You can see on the board here on my left. Understandably, when we meditate, we begin with the body, right? So it's called body-based meditation. The Pali words Kayanupassana. Kaya means body. Here again, we must remind ourselves when we study Buddhism, especially early Buddhism, words are always flexible. They're not technical terms, not usually. So, like the word kaya, for example, we translate as body in English. It's a very good translation. But as we well know, the word body in English can refer to your physical body, or it can also refer to a group. For example, we say a student body, yeah, or a body of workers. So in other words, a group, right? Body can also refer to the breath, as we will soon see in today's study. So when we begin meditation, we sit down, we watch the body, right? So it's quite logical. We start watching the body. And then after that, we watch feelings. Vedana nupassana. The word watching or observation or contemplation is anupassana. Anu here means repeatedly. Pasana, seeing, observing. Here seeing, of course, again, is not seeing with your what I call flesh eyes or physical eyes, as we say it, but watching with the mind, seeing with the mind. Sometimes when we talk, we ask our audience or the someone we're talking with, we say, do you see this point, right? Do you understand? Do you notice, right? So see is in the process of seeing with the mind, understanding. So in fact, the more we broaden our minds, the more we do not tie it down with strong views, the easier we will understand the Buddha's teaching. In other words, we are no more tied down by the bounds of language as you progress in meditation especially. Now, so we have body. Since we have a body, we also have feelings, right? So it progresses quite naturally. And as you watch the feelings, some thoughts may arise. For example, I like this, I don't like this. Those are thoughts, right? The mind. So the third contemplation or anupassana is chitta-anupassana. Chitta here means mind, or if you like, your attention. But here it generally means the mind. Okay? Watching our thoughts rise and fall. Or simply watching the nature of the thoughts. Maybe distracted thoughts, or the thoughts are no more distracted and so on. And then the fourth Satipatthana, the fourth focus of mindfulness is Dhammanupassana. This word Dhamma has got so many meanings, but here we usually translate it as phenomena or realities, if you like. Things that you notice in your mind as your mind becomes more and more calm and peaceful and clear. You begin to notice realities, dharmas, the Four Noble Truths, for example. And then you attain focus, mental stillness, right? So these are the 4 focuses of mindfulness. They go in a sequence from the more physical to to the more mental, more subtle, like that, go step by step. Okay? This is the beginning of the meditation, of course. No? But as you become very good in this meditation, then you have another level of Satipatthana where you can watch any of them anytime. So that one we won't deal with because that's the high level. No? In other words, you use the four focuses of mindfulness to attain jhana, and then you go back, practice it again like that. Then your mind becomes clearer. Okay? But here we are looking at the beginners or beginner practitioners approach. So let's look at page 127 where the sutta is, Satipatthana Sutta M10. Now we already done the first part. So now let's look at observing the body or contemplation of the body, Kaya Nupassana. Now first of all, look at the meditations that are listed under this category of this Satipatthana. First Satipatthana called Kaya Nupassana. Number one, you have mindfulness of the breath, Anapanasati, right? Let's look at the big headings. And then the next page near the bottom, number two, you have the four postures. And then next page, you have full awareness, number three. Then number four, you have perception of foulness, or the 31 parts of the body. Or in later times, it's called the 32 parts of the body. And then next page, 130, at the bottom, you see analysis of the four elements. These are all contemplation on the body, related to the body. And then number 6 on the following page, page 131, the 9 channel ground meditations. Okay? Or what are called the 9 stages of decomposition of the body. This one is body meditation. This is one meditation we all rarely do, and you are not advised to do this on your own, but this is a very specialized meditation. And so those are the list of anupassanas or contemplation listed under the body 6 times. No? Of course, the most familiar is the very first one. The most famous one is mindfulness of the in and out breath. This day, following the Pali word, Anapanasati. Sati means mindfulness. Anapana is a problem word, because of course we know it's without 2 parts, ana plus pana, or sometimes apana. Ana, some dictionaries say ana is in, some dictionaries say ana is out. So, and the other word also same, right? So it depends which dictionary you look at. But when you combine the 2 components, anapana, it means in and out breathing. Or in English you simply say breath meditation. Now there's something very interesting with this word anapana. For example, if you look at the word ana, which means in breath, let's take it as in breath. We have a Latin word, anima. Anima means, animated means you're alive, you can move on your own. So anima is something like a kind of a self or consciousness. And then the prana is the Sanskrit is prana. And this is very close to the Greek word, or you might even say the cognate, in other words equivalent, pneuma. P-N-E-U-M-A. Pneuma. Now from the word prefix pneuma, or this component pneuma, you get words like pneumonia. Pneumonia has to do with the lungs. Pneumatic tires. There's air inside the tire. So pneuma means air, wind. Okay? And the P is silent. There's no sound for P, silent P. So I was wondering why there's a silent P. Then when I started learning Buddhism and I looked at the Sanskrit word, you don't notice this in the Pali word, but you see this in the Sanskrit version. Sanskrit probably pronounced prana. No? But somehow when the language, when these Aryans migrated to Greece, the Greeks Probably at one time they pronounced pneuma, but pneuma is so difficult to pronounce, so the P became silent. So the many initial words were just silent, like mnemonic, mnemonic, the N is silent, and so on. So you find in Greek many initial letters are silent. So these are related to the Indo-European languages. So the most common method we use to start off our practice of Satipatthana is the breath meditation. And for good reason, because the breath is in many ways the easiest meditation to do, because breathing is natural to everyone. Historically, the Buddha himself used breath meditation. Even as a child, 7-year-old boy sitting under the jambu tree, he meditated on the breath and attained first jhana. A young boy of 7 could attain first jhana. So we're talking about a child prodigy here, a young boy who is already of very deep spirituality. So you don't really need all those fantastic stories about him. His personal life already shows that he is an exceptional child. At 7 years old, he sat under the jambu tree and he could attain the first jhana. Then later, more about 27 or 28 years later, after giving up all that self-torture, the Bodhisattva started thinking, what's the best way to discover, to be free from suffering? He tried torturing himself, doesn't work. He has lived the pleasure of the life in the palace, that didn't help. So he said, there must be a middle way. And there is a joy which is good, meditative joy. Not all pleasure is bad. Meditation pleasure is good. You meditate, you feel happy, and that helps. So he remembers when he was a child, he meditated on the breath. Right? So the breath meditation is well-known Buddhist meditation. Of course, we might even say the Buddha didn't invent breath meditation. Probably breath meditation was already popular at that time. Purely, for yogic breathing, but they never used it for awakening. So in a sense, the Buddha used it and totally freed his mind in that sense. So we won't say he borrowed it, this idea, not at all, because his predecessors never really used all this meditation in that direction as the Buddha did. So this was the big difference. The Buddha used breath meditation and discovered awakening. Now let's look at how this is defined, the mindfulness of the in and out breath. Page 127, section 4. And how bhikshus does a monk dwell, observing the body in the body? Here bhikshu is a monk who has gone to the forest, to the foot of a tree or to an empty abode, sits down, having crossed his legs and keeping his body upright, establishes mindfulness fully before him. Mindfully he breathes in, mindfully he breathes out. Okay, let's just stop here for a while. Okay? Now this section is the locus classicus. This is the main reference for the way we sit when we meditate. For example, let's say if someone asks you, where in the Buddhist scripture do you see the Buddha telling us to sit like this or to watch the breath like this? Right? You say, well, here you are. Satipatthana Sutta, N10, section 4. Now let me explain line by line as necessary. First line, and how bhikshus does a monk dwell observing the body in the body? Here monk is, if you look at the footnote earlier on, can you see 3A, opposite page? Can you see it? A, monk, there's a footnote 10 there. Can, Notice at the bottom it says, here a monk or bhikkhu may refer either to an ordained monastic, that means monk or nun, or anyone who is meditating. Here, of course, in this sutta doing Satipatthana, and then there are references given there, Digha commentary, Majjhima commentary, Vibhanga commentary, and something also in the Sutta Nipata commentary. So, when you meditate, you have renounced the world, so to speak. Yeah? And this is a very wonderful idea to understand. If you're a busy lay person, you don't have to become a monk or a nun. Because if you meditate, while you're meditating, you are de facto, in reality, a monk or a nun, a renunciant, in other words. If you really meditate, you are renouncing. But if you become a monk or a nun, of course, you have more time, more opportunity, better conditions to meditate. Right? So just because we cannot wear the robe or shave our hair doesn't mean we can't practice meditation. We can. Right? So in other words, it's how you live and practice, not how you dress, that makes you a renunciant. Okay? Of course, we can say when you meditate, you are part-time renunciant, if you like, but it's okay, because when you're meditating, you are practicing renunciation. Renunciation of what, you might say. Again, if you look at the Satipatthana, this is something you probably never heard before. You can look at the 4 Satipatthana as 4 levels of renunciation. Right? In the first Satipatthana, Kayanupassana, you observe the body and let go of the body. You renounce the body. Renounce the body. We sit quietly. We watch the breath so that we become peaceful. By letting go of the body, you become more peaceful, first stage. Then feelings arise. You watch the feelings. You notice the feelings rising, falling, impermanent. You let go of the feelings so that you're not troubled by the feelings. You are renouncing, letting go of feelings. And then thoughts, distractions that come. You let go of those. You let go of the mind. And then finally these realities or these wonderful truths arise in your mind. Okay? And you notice them, joy arises. And then you let go of those also. Then comes that peace, equanimity, jhana, and so on. So this is one way of looking at it. Okay? Even a simple practice of breath meditation, as you notice, you're sitting quietly, watching your breath coming in, going out. You are keeping the precepts, you are at peace with yourself. You are practicing renunciation. So you don't need to become a monk or a nun. I stress this because a lot of people, sometimes they have difficulties. They feel they want to run away from society, become a monk for the wrong reasons. Sometimes they work very hard and they have this romantic idea, wow, being a monk is so wonderful. So they thought they want to become a monk. Of course, if they can really renounce the world, give up their job, that's good. But sometimes it's not so simple. You have a family, the people are dependent on you and so on. So in a sense, you can balance both worlds in this way, by practicing your meditation seriously as a layperson. So, the monk dwells observing the body in the body. This is typical ancient Pali language, the Sutta language. Watch the body in the body. Not watch the body outside the body. In other words, you're thinking about something else. But here, body in the body, or body as body, if you like. That's another way to translate it. You watch the body as it is, in other words. Then, 4.2, here bhikshus, a monk who has gone to the forest, and so on. So this first part, you have forest, foot of a tree, an empty abode. Okay, here you have 1, 2, 3 places mentioned as ideal for meditation. 3 suitable places for meditation. Only 3 places are mentioned. This is the shortest list actually. So once the list is short, we know it's probably the sutta is very old enough, or at least this part is old. Because we have in other suttas sometimes a list of 12 places, open air, sitting on the ground, a cave, a ravine, and so on. But here only 3 are mentioned. Look at these 3. Number 1, the forest. The forest is a wonderful place for meditation. The first reason, it is away from human beings, so you won't be distracted. Because once they know, oh, you're a very holy man and you're meditating, they will come to you asking for blessings and so on. And that's what happened to Sona Kulivisa, for example. He couldn't meditate because he was so well known. People started visiting him and he just couldn't meditate. So another wonderful thing about a forest, if you have been to a forest, is that the leaves push away sounds, especially sounds made by the city. You just need to go to the botanic gardens to notice this. There was once, I had a very traumatic experience there. There's a time when they closed the main gate, they were repairing it or renovating it, the big main gate, on Holland Road. So we got to enter by a side gate, small little gate called, I think it's called a Minden Gate. It's a small little gate, just enough for one person to go through, but it's got a thick hedge, very thick hedge, and lots of trees. So I step in, and the moment I step in, suddenly I felt as if this curtain of noise just dropped. It's a very pleasant feeling, It's like you are bathed in silence. I don't know how to describe it, very nice. And you should try it one day, if there's a small door there, you try go through that small door from the noisy road into the garden. The hedges are thick, the trees, and keeping the noise away. Then I told myself, this is interesting. Very nice feeling. So I told myself, is this real? Am I imagining it? So I went out again, and then went in again. So, and you get a feeling again. Very nice feeling. Okay? That means right now, even you and I, as we're sitting here, there's a lot of noise. The decibel is very high all around. We're not aware of it. That's one reason I think we have difficulty meditating. There is this noise. We are so used to it. Used to it doesn't mean you can meditate. It's not necessarily so. Right? But when you go to some faraway place, and let's say you go to some Ulu place in Johor, or better you go to Bhutan, you find, wow, it's really beautiful. There is a catch here, There is a sutta called Bhaya Sutta, where the Buddha says, there are some people who are terrified of this silence. I was in Perth, the Jhana Groves, and I hear some very interesting stories. Some of these people told me. They say, especially in relation to Singaporeans, of course. A group of Singaporeans who go to Jhana Grove, right? Of course, they think, wow, nice place, retreat, Jhana, everybody's excited. Suddenly, it's all silent and quiet, especially at night, And those who like meditation, no problem, say, oh, this is wonderful. But those who don't like meditation, or who just came because their friends came, they have to struggle and always asking, when are we going back? So you can see the difference there. The thing is this. It's good to prepare yourself with precept practice before you go. So that you feel more comfortable that I have done the right things, at least make extra effort to keep the 5 precepts. Not necessarily 8 precepts, 5 precepts at least, extra effort. Then when you go there, you feel good. You are morally prepared. And of course, if you go with friends, good friends, spiritual friends, you tell yourself it's going to be silent and peaceful. Some people may be afraid of the dark. Then bring a torchlight or something. Then you find you are not afraid, right? So if you have not done any evil stuff, you shouldn't be afraid. If you think you have, then make extra effort to keep the precepts. So living in the forest is not something anyone can do. You must prepare yourself to do this. Okay? But if you are well prepared, let's say you go as a group, you go to Fraser's Hill, Cameron Highlands, a quiet bungalow, then you go on your own, each of you go as a group, but when you meditate alone in different quiet places. It's really beautiful, the forest. So it's away from people, you don't disturb you. Number 2, the peacefulness of the forest is really wonderful and helps your meditation. But when I was in Perth, something interesting happened in the night. What amazed me was the night was really silent. No cicadas or crickets. Not like the Malaysian jungle, very noisy, shrill sound. Then I asked other Australians, I say, is this like this everywhere? And there was another nun from Melbourne. She said, no, in Melbourne you got lots of cicadas. So it happens that in that area, because the area is quiet. Anyway, even if you go to the Malaysian jungle, which I have brought a lot of people into the jungle, which I love that kind of meditation in the jungle. And we normally camp near rivers so that you get water. They don't have water. Given the jungle, you only have they call it a hunter's lodge. Everything natural. Toilets are natural. No flush, by the way. You got to carry water, and you go to the river to wash. And the current can be very strong sometimes, so you got to hold on to the root of the tree and hold it tight and use the other hand to wash yourself. And make sure your pants are tight, by the way, otherwise the current will wash it away. So, this river sound, sometimes there are rapids, water rushing over rocks, and then sound of monkeys, leaves rustling when it's windy. And worst of all, when there's a thunderstorm, very loud sound. However, if you really meditate, even in thunderstorm, you find it's very peaceful. Now, this is the wonderful thing about jungles. Of course, I'm talking about you have this proper hut where the rain doesn't drip in and you get wet, and it won't be comfortable. It can be quite cold when it rains. So the jungle is like that. It is quite, if you are prepared well, it's a very comfortable place for meditation. Of course, you've got to check around, make sure there are no wild animals there and so on. In fact, if you do go, wild animals are afraid of human beings, even more than we fear them actually. They only will attack you if they are really hungry. So if you keep away, you keep in a safe place where there are people, you should be alright. What about snakes, you might say? Okay, if you are walking through an area where there are a lot of undergrowth, it's good to, get a long stick. And as you walk, just hit left and right, make the sound. Because the snake, they can sense the vibration, and then they will rush away. Okay? What happens usually, the danger is you accidentally step on them, and then they will strike. I remember when I was in north of Malaya, a peninsula of Malaysia, and there's a forest monastery up north. You see the snakes lying on the warm tarmac, because the jungle is cold, and the roads are warm. And there are very few vehicles that you see the snakes resting there. Of course, we don't bother about them. So these are things you must know, and just stay away from them, they won't hurt you. One very important thing when you go into the jungle to meditate, remember the Metta Sutta, right? The story of the Metta Sutta. The monks went to the forest and jungle to meditate. They were troubled by what we call spirits, some kind of uneasy feeling. So the Buddha taught them metta, loving kindness. So wherever you go to a new place, not necessarily a jungle, even a house, first thing you do is warm the place up with loving kindness practice. This is another rule to remember. Okay? Then you have foot of a tree. A foot of a tree is generally good as shelter. A big tree, like a banyan tree, for example. Okay? These are safe places. And an empty abode. Empty abode here can mean empty hut, empty building, if you like, not inhabited by people. So it's a kind of general term here. So basically, a quiet place, peaceful, pleasant, natural, and there's water for cleaning, drinking nearby. So this is the ideal physical place for meditation. Any questions here? Clear, huh? Now next one is the posture. Sits down. So this is the sitting meditation. Of course, not all meditation are sitting meditation, but breath meditation best done sitting. And then another posture is cross the legs. Why do we cross our legs? The ancient Indians are used to this because in the jungles you don't have stools and chairs. You get some straw or dry grass, or maybe it's a soft, a very nice spot, a smooth rock, so you sit there. Even a smooth rock is quite hard on the ankles, so you need some kind of maybe some kind of seat to bring along, maybe leaves or straw. We cross our legs, it forms a triangle. Okay? So it balances up your body. So you don't have to move very much, so you can focus on your mind. And this triangle also forms a broad base to support your weight. So in a sense, you become slightly lighter than when you are standing. If you are standing, you tend to get tired faster because your whole body weight is being supported by your footprint. Right? So you get tired faster. So sitting is more relaxing. So you can focus more on your mind. Then keeping the body upright. Okay, so here upright, one simple way is, the suttas, the commentaries like to say, make sure your backbone, one on the top of the other. Your vertebra, okay, all pile up, like, is that what Lego blocks, is it? You know, or straight up. So this is for the health of your spine, okay? Of course, after a while, we call it the wilting lotus syndrome. Okay, you bend. That's normal. You don't spend all the time watching your posture, then you can't meditate. You start by making sure your posture is good, and then leave it like that. Right? After a while, 1 hour, you find you slouch a bit, then you adjust yourself. It's okay, don't worry too much once you start meditating. One easy way to know whether you are sitting straight or not is to imagine you have a pendulum hanging down from below your neck. Okay? This pendulum is hanging, and the pendulum is just where the heart is. So if you bend too far forward, then the pendulum is outside your body. Too far back, the pendulum outside, behind you. So you sit straight, the pendulum is inside you, that means the center of gravity is inside you. So you are sitting nice and balanced. Or imagine the Buddha image, very nice Buddha image. So you sit in a very proper, healthy way, balanced way. You can sit very still for a long time. Okay, so this is the meaning, keeping your body upright. Okay? And then comes this little problematic phrase, establishes mindfulness fully before him. Now look at note 21. The Pali word is parimukha. Parimukha. Pari is just like the Greek word peri. Peri is Latin. Para is Greek. Means around. Mukha means mouth. So if you translate literally, parimukha means around the mouth. In fact, some of the commentaries actually tell us to watch the breath around the mouth, the nose tip, for example. But apparently this is a later idea. This is not the original sutta idea. The suttas do not tell us to locate the breath anywhere. And this is very important to understand. In other words, parimukha, it must not be understood physically. Parimukha must be understood as an idiom. You know the word mukha in Malay means face. See, the meaning has changed a bit, right? So parimukha, you know why we cannot take it literally? Because if you look at some of the Pali sentences, it will show you that it has no physical location. Let me see if I can locate some examples. Page 848 at the bottom. Page 48 at the bottom. Can you see DPL, Dictionary of Pali Language? Parimukkhang satting upatapetra, placing or having place, memory or mindfulness directly before him. You see the word sati, mindfulness. He places mindfulness before him. It doesn't make sense to translate that he places mindfulness around the mouth. It doesn't make sense, you see? So parimukha has an idiomatic meaning of meaning before. Before us. That means we are mindful. If behind us, that means we are not mindful. That's the meaning. So here parimukha means to be fully mindful. Okay? And this is important to understand because of what I'm going to say in a while on how to do breath meditation. So here, the translation establishes. That means reinforce, make it strong, this mindfulness, before you. Make sure there is this mindfulness. And here again, we close our eyes. Right? So, in other words, we are looking it with our mind, looking at the breath with our mind. So now you are prepared. Now you are ready for meditation. So what do? Now you come to section 4.3. Mindfully he breathes in, mindfully he breathes out. This is the key line in practice. How do you breathe in mindfully? How do you breathe out mindfully? Your attention is in the breath. In the breath. Of course, this is easier said than done. If you have practiced breath meditation before, you find the mind starts wandering, thoughts start coming in. This is perfectly normal. Remember, in meditation, what you see is what you get. Meditation means you see yourself in a Dharma mirror. You begin to see your mind. So if you're a very busy person, you see the busyness overflowing into your meditation. So you have gently to let it go. Gently let it go. Okay? So this is where a lot of people, when they do proper meditation, they feel very happy after that, no matter how busy they are. That is why the meditation teacher is very important. Not just to guide the meditators and students, the meditation teacher acts as a kind of influence, if you like, a centering influence. The teacher himself meditates with the group. He has to get into a peaceful state. And somehow the students also will feel it. There was a very funny story, real story in Singapore, where there is this well-known name, and this person has written a book on meditation and selling outside here. And he was asked to run a meditation class in one of the Buddhist centers. At one point, while the students were sitting meditating, he was marching up and down like a sergeant, very distracting. He was agitated actually. So the students couldn't meditate. So they just gave up. So sometimes, you can read up and you can even write books on meditation, but it's different from actually meditating. Many of these forest monks, they're even illiterate, but they're very good in their peacefulness of mind. So this ability to calm yourself, the way we talk, the way we sit, the way we instruct people is very important to calm this person down, to calm the group, meditating group down. So normally, at the beginning, the teacher will talk about theory. And then slowly, as the meditation progresses, there'll be less and less talk. More and more practice like that. So, progression. Okay? So, the sutta here defines how to watch the breath. So there are, actually some people say 16 stages, 4 times 4. Okay? So, look at the, here you only have, here you count each number as 2, you get 16 also. In the Anapanasati Sutta, they're given in full detail. This is more like a summary, the main practice, the main idea. Number 1, breathing in long, he understands. I breathe in long. Or simply, long in-breath. Now, first of all, the word understands, pajanati. And it's very important to understand the word pajanati. He understands. So here, he must understand the nature of breath, so to speak. Aware of the breath. Knowing the breath is coming in, knowing it's going out. And later, watching some of the details. We'll come to that in a moment. The word here is pajanati. Make a note of it, because the significance will come in a moment. Understand also here in a sense that you just watch. You watch. No? I breathe in long. So this is like you are making a mental note, okay? I breathe in long, or long in breath. Look at the note 23. Here, in Pali, we can shorten it, you know. You can, instead of saying the whole sentence, we just say long in-breath, enough already. Shorter the words, the better. Shorter the better. Okay? When you're very good, you don't even have to say the words anymore. You know long in-breath. Okay, so if you're not so, if there's some difficulty in the attention, mentally say the words. We call it sub-verbalization. Sub-verbalization means saying in your mind, in your heart, right? Or breathing out long, he understands, I breathe out long, or long out breath. 2, or breathing in short, he understands, short breath. I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he understands, I breathe out short. Now notice here, we watch long breath first and then short breath. You know why? There's a very simple explanation. Let's say you are late for meditation class, so you kind of rush, you rush in and then you sit down. And when you sit down, your breath will be long, right? Breathing out very long. So you're aware, long breath. And then as you become more relaxed, more calm, the breath also becomes shorter. Right? So it's very natural. Long breath is not shorter. Okay, 1 and 2, you see the verb, he understands. But 3 and 4, the verb changes. He trains himself. So instead of understand bhajanati, now the verb is sikkati. He trains himself. So here you got to put a bit of effort. Okay? He trains himself thus. I shall breathe in, experiencing the whole body of breath. He trains himself thus. I shall breathe out, experiencing the whole body of breath. Here again you see the word body. But here body refers to breath, not your physical body. Okay? 4, he trains himself thus. I shall breathe in, calming the bodily formations of breath. He trains himself thus. I shall breathe out, calming the bodily formations of breathing. Okay, these are useful to reflect on and study in some detail. Let me see what I can tell you within the time we have. Stage 1 and 2, you breathe in, you know the breath is coming in, the breath is going out, long or short, you know. Okay? In other words, you don't need to make much effort. The idea is letting go of other ideas. Use the breath as your focus. Stage 3 and 4 here, you've got to make extra effort because you're going to look at the details of the breath. The whole breath. What does this mean, whole breath? Okay, you can see on the whiteboard on my right here. Hope the video can see too. Now you see A, B, okay? Now, stage 1 and 2, you have in, out, alright? So the breath comes in, goes out. In, out. This is stage 1 and 2. But stage 3 and 4, you will notice there are gaps in your breath. Because your breath becomes very peaceful, you breathe in, there is space, breathe out, space. The spaces are also very peaceful. I don't know whether you notice in the meditation or not. Okay, there are peaceful spaces in between the breath. Okay? In fact, we can go into more details. After you have begun the basic practice, your instructor may go deeper and start teaching you how to watch. First, I think he will teach you to watch the end of the breath. That's the easiest to watch. The breath comes in at the end. You watch the end, you say in. And then the breath goes out, you watch at the end, you say out. Normally that's the easiest place to start with. And then, I say maybe because different teachers may use different approach. Yeah? But this is one way I find very helpful for myself. Then, after that, you watch the beginning. Okay? After you watch the end, you watch the beginning. In other words, just before the breath comes in, you've got to watch it. In and then out. So that means your breathing must be more relaxed. If you breathe too fast, it's very difficult to notice beginning and end. Your breath is slow enough. In and then the end up. By now you can't say too many words because it's very, in a sense it's fast. So you know it's the beginning, you know it's ending of the in-breath. And then there is a bit of space, peaceful space. If you want to focus better, just smile at the space, very peaceful. And sometimes the space can be very long, like as if there's no breath, very peaceful. Some people, they read books and meditate, they don't know what to do. They suddenly panic, they say, how come no more breath? I'm going to suffocate. And then they purposely breathe in, and then the concentration is gone. You don't do that. You just keep it the way it is, natural. And then watch the out breath, beginning and then out breath, and end of the out breath. And then space again. And if you can do it even more detailed, then you watch the middle part also. So you have the beginning, you can see here, middle part, ending, 3 parts of the breath. That's even more detailed, yeah? But if you, this one will take some time. When you are really calm, then you can notice the 3 points of the breath, okay? So in other words, you cannot rush this. You got to wait until the breath slows down, very peaceful. And if you do feel very peaceful, then there's nothing more to watch. Just enjoy the peace. Hold the peace, as we say. Just keep it that way, enjoy the peace, and you find you feel very good, very joyful. And the moment you notice any thoughts coming in, you can just smile at those thoughts, or you can use the word let go, to keep your mind peaceful on the breath. So that's the meaning of number 3. I shall breathe in or breathe out, experiencing the whole body. Okay? That means the 3 points, beginning, middle, end of the breath. Now number 4 is very interesting. I shall breathe in, calming the bodily formations. I shall breathe out, calming the bodily formations. Because at some point maybe there are thoughts, or maybe you're not well focused, so you make sure everything is very peaceful and calm, very no thoughts are involved, in other words. No thinking is involved, no more words. No need to say in, out anymore. You know the breath is coming in. You know the breath is going out. And only knowing, that's all. No need to use words. This is the more detailed later part. So these are the 4 stages. In the Satipatthana Sutta, you get about 16 stages listed. Now here you find there is a very interesting simile or parable, 4.4. Just as a skilled turner or apprentice, a turner is a carpenter who turns wood and makes into various things with the wood. Just as a skilled turner or his apprentice, when making a long turn, that means make the wood turn round a long turn, understands that he is making a long turn. And in making a short turn, understands that he's making a short turn. So this carpenter, he has a turner. So he put this piece of wood in the wood spin, and he uses a sharp chisel or something, and then just cut and make patterns on the wood. So it's very skilled. So he observes. Where does he observe? He observes at the tip of the instrument, right? So this is very important hint for us. This parable is telling us, you watch the point of breath. And the point of breath here is your knowledge, your awareness, your attention where the breath is coming in, going out, or there is a space. In other words, you watch the knowing. You watch the knowing of the breath. You know that the breath is coming in. You know the breath is going out. You know there is a space and gap there. Watch that knowledge, in other words. So it's very subtle. Of course, what about some people, beginners, who are unable to do this. So this is where there are later methods. They're not found in suttas, but later teachers found this helpful to use some of these methods. But these methods are used normally in the beginning to help the meditators prepare themselves. So, for example, there is the counting method, which was mentioned by Buddha Gosha, right? This is right at the beginning. The breath comes in, goes out, you count 1, in, out 2, in, out 3, and so on. Now, this counting, there are certain rules to follow. The numbers should not be too big or too small. In other words, it should be between 5 and 10. That it is ideal. No? Not smaller than 5, too small, not bigger than 10, too big. Another rule, it is not about counting. The counting, the numbers are just to help us push away immediate distractions. So you make any mistake, go back to number 1. That's all. And some people really like this very much. It helps them to focus. If it works for you, you use it. Some people, they don't like it, so you won't want to try it out. If you find that the counting doesn't help, then it's okay. No need. You can forego the first stage. You go straight into the in-out stage. Okay, you watch the breath coming in, going out, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so these are a bit of tips. Yeah? Okay, so that is a bit of information about the breath meditation. Any questions? Yeah? Clear enough, yeah?
Sorry, I missed out on before. And the breathing, calming the bodily formation.
Yes.
Can you explain in calming the bodily formation, please?
Here, in other words, we do not use any words anymore, because earlier on we were saying in, out. You know? Yeah. So at this stage, we don't say any words at all. We want the breath to be very calm, very peaceful. Yeah. So we do not try to add in anything more. Okay, watch the breath just as it is. Let it flow gently, peacefully. And then notice the gaps in between the breath as the breath slows down. In other words, here you will see the breath slowing down, even stopping for a while, appearing to stop for a while. Okay? That's the meaning here.
Okay, so no more watching,
no more using of verbalization.
No more thinking, beginning the breath and the breath, just watching it flow.
Yes, the flow.
Because earlier you mentally note start and end of in and out breath. Now you don't do that anymore, is that right?
You don't do it in a sense like, how shall I put it? Yeah, it becomes more natural. More natural. In fact, it becomes so peaceful, just to think of a word, it is disruptive already. You know, just to think of a word is disruptive. So disruptive. You know, it becomes distracting, right? So we don't want any thoughts. It's pure feeling. You notice the breath flowing beautifully. In, space, out, space, like that. Beautiful flow.
No more thoughts.
And then you're very peaceful, right? The breath becomes more peaceful like that. Yeah? In fact, you will notice, if you meditate on the breath, you will naturally notice how peaceful it is. So you don't want to say anything mentally. You will break your concentration.
So this is from one all the way down. It's more like stages, taking.
Yeah, letting go of the breath.
Stage sequentially.
Correct, sequentially. You are letting go of the body, just the breath. Another understanding this is you are watching the beautiful breath. The beautiful breath. Okay? So at first you watch in, out, the breath, it's beautiful breath. But then as you become more peaceful, there's no more breath. You seem to stop breathing. The gap is very long, very peaceful. No more breath, only beautiful is left. Joy. Joy is left. So when it is peaceful, you also feel good. When it is peaceful means it is also joyful. A subtle joy. Maybe at that time you did not know the intensity of the joy, you know? But when you come out of your meditation during what's called review period, you look back and say, wow, that was really peaceful. And you don't know the value of the peace until you get yourself into trouble. You know, you have a lot of strife and problem, and then you say, oh, I want to be peaceful. Then you remember, when I meditated, that was really peaceful. So sometimes during meditation, you might not know the value of it. But when you come out of it, and you face the world, you find it's very peaceful. And you find some retreatants, those who go for retreats, 1 week, 2 weeks, Well, maybe some of you have noticed this, you come out retreat, let's say you are in the mountains and then you come down to the world out there. It's like a crazy world, people are rushing here, noisy, and you say, wow, what's going on? You feel like you're lost. But then slowly you get back into this crazy world.
Yeah, one more question.
Sure.
4.4, the short term, long term. You said here it means you watch the knowing of the breath.
Yes.
Do you mean the observer mind here?
In a sense, yeah, you watch the awareness, the breath.
Is there another level? Because first you're watching the breath. Going through the first 4, then observing the breath.
In a sense, you can say level if you like. You are refining your attention. Okay? Now.
So you mean your observer mind is, in a sense, watching you.
Yeah.
Watching the breath, so to speak. Is that what you mean? I'm not sure.
No, less than that. Let me put it another way, very, very simple way. When you begin, here you are watching the breath. This is you, this is the breath. And the breath runs around, so to speak. Yeah? But slowly, as you focus, watching the breath, they come closer, 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 and then become one. Okay? Now, I'm comfortable saying that way because there are some teachers who say there's no such thing as the mind becomes one with the breath. But I think, but I mean, it's meaningful to talk that way, although maybe the reality is something else. Here, the mind and the breath becomes one. That means you don't need to think anymore. You don't need to use words anymore.
Yes, I understand that.
Yes, okay. Yes?
So that's what it means, 4.4, that you become the breath?
Something like that.
Okay.
Something.
All right.
Okay? Okay, don't take it too literally. Huh?
Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
At this stage, right, you're still here.
No.
Let's say you're already at this stage.
No, you won't hear anything unless if you're not in jhana, yes, somebody talks to you, will hear. But otherwise, you won't hear anything. It won't trouble you. You'll be peaceful.
But if it's still here, that means you are still not focused.
Of course, not focused. But if someone comes to and talks to the ear loud enough, you will come out of it. Yeah. If someone's really in jhana, you can shake this person and turn it upside down. You should not. He won't come out of it. Okay, that's deep jhana. Okay.
I just like to say that having come back from 2 weeks at Satipatthana and meditating entire days, speaking to myself, there were moments when I was no longer counting, and I felt I was not so much the body, but I became the breath,
Correct.
so to speak,
Just that.
not feeling so much the body anymore.
You don't feel the body at all.
Not so much the separation as body and breath as you put it, but it was more like merge, and I felt, oh, this is very comfortable.
And you feel light. You feel light.
Yeah, I'm just the breath. So that's what it means.
Yes. Correct. At that level, yeah. You know, the word light here takes a new meaning. You feel light in terms of weight, and light also in terms of brightness. This is another interesting point, This.
And light in the mind too, not so.
Yeah, so you kind of like your mind becomes brighter, so to speak. Yeah? There is, let me see, there's a bit of the notes here comparing, talking about this. Let me just locate the page for you so you can read up. Page 50, section 3.9.5, where to watch the breath. So, got it? 50. Yeah, where to watch the breath, right? So, further down, you have the Visuddhimagga gives two similes, that of the cripple and the gatekeeper. So, this cripple, he sits on the swing, and the swing moves up and down. So you just watch the swing moves up, okay, that's the end of the breath, and then the start of that, and then of course there's the middle part. A better analogy is the gatekeeper or doorkeeper, right? The doorkeeper stands at the door. He has to make sure people who come in, they have got a membership card or they got a ticket, so he stands at the door. And as the people come, he will check. He's always watching at the doorway. He doesn't look into the hall, doesn't look away, you see? So he looks at the door. This is very interesting because the word door also refers to your, faculties. So anyway, in this case, it's the breath. He watches the breath. Where the breath arises, passes away. Of course, another example is the carpenter himself. The carpenter is sawing, When the carpenter saws, I don't know how many of you have sawn before, where do you watch the saw? You watch where the teeth of the saw is cutting the wood. That's where you watch. You don't follow the saw up and down, you see. You watch the point where the saw is in contact with the wood, right? So same thing in your meditation also.
But having raised the question before, I just realized that if you do become the breath, if the watching and the breath merges, so to speak, then that renders the following 1, 2, 3, 4 irrelevant, right? Because you no longer
You're talking about the earlier part, is it?
sorry, because I'm still talking about the skill channel.
Oh, no, this one, the repetition is simply telling you how you should watch the breath. It doesn't continue from the top 4, The last 4 is a repeat, it's just repeating the first. Okay? The analogy says that's how you should watch your breath, 1, 2, 3, 4, just as you have done before. Alright? So, in other words, even when you're watching the breath coming in, going out, okay, you must know where to watch. Watch the knowing, okay? That's the meaning. So it applies to all the 4 stages. The where to watch the breath, in other words. And then the last one, of course, is where the breath and the attention merges. They're no more separate. Just towards the end. Alright?
And even when that happens, you will still be watching the various stages?
No, of course not. By the time you're so peaceful, no more thoughts. You're just at peace with yourself. Right? The last stage, number 4. Or, of course, you can say after 4 is better. Okay, there are other deeper stages. If you look at the Satipatthana Sutta. Suffice it to say, your mind becomes calm enough in the last stage, where you don't have to say anything, verbalize anything anymore. You're just watching the breath in. You know it is in, you know it is peaceful, you know it's going out, you know it is peaceful. Okay? So, let me summarize one more time, right? When we begin our meditation, we make sure we are fully relaxed, bodily relaxed, so we don't have to shift around too much, And then after that, we let go of all our feelings, liking, disliking, nice feeling, painful feeling, just so that we don't have to deal with them by sitting comfortably. And then the thoughts, we have to deal with the thoughts. And then you kind of, one way to just smile away, let the thoughts go, or simply use what's called labeling, mental noting. You can use words, simple words like let go, let go. Use the words like an instruction. You tell the mind, let go, 2, 3 times. Gently say that, and then silence. Don't say anything. Say it 2, 3 times. You tell the mind, let go, then just be silent. Go back to your breath. Or you can use words like thinking. Vipassana people like to do that. So let us objectify it. That's all that it is. You don't want to say what kind of sound. You don't want to comment on it. You just say sound. That's all it is. In other words, there are 5 physical distractions possible. Number 6 is thought. You hear a sound, you hear those people outside. You don't say, oh, those people, they're doing this, doing that. No, just commenting. Source of sound in meditation is the ear, not outside. Because if you are very focused, you don't hear the sound anymore. So the soft sound is the ears. So if you are distracted, you just focus on the ear door, you say sound, sound, sound. Or maybe you're meditating, you get this really beautiful smell of the flowers or whatever, sweet smell. You didn't say, oh, what's that? And you look around, is that jasmine or what? You're just commenting, you'll be distracted. Smell, smell. Just note it as it is, let it go. Whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. Bodily feeling, pain, same thing also. Note it as it is, let it go. Okay? So, now let's go a bit with the Satipatthana refrain. Okay? So this refrain is like a chorus. It repeats itself after every set of instructions. So he dwells. Here dwells means he goes on practicing. Observing the body in the body internally. That means watching his own breath in this case. You will focus on breath. No? Or observing the body in the body externally. That means someone else's breath. Okay, this is one possible explanation. No? What does this mean? Now you know in group meditation, you sometimes can hear the next person breathing, or snoring for that matter, if you fall asleep. So when you're meditating, your breathing is very peaceful, but you're not calm yet because the person next to you is quite noisy. You can hear him. So instead of complaining, getting upset, which is very unmeditative, okay, you focus on the breathing and use that as an object. Even snoring, you know? Of course, one way here, if you are disturbed by someone snoring during meditation, you synchronize your breath to this person's snoring. Then you won't be troubled by it. And then slowly when your mind is peaceful, let your breath become normal again. That's one way out if you are troubled by the snoring. The third one says, observing the body in the body, both internally, externally. So here is when you notice your breath, you also notice the breath of someone outside, you alternate, gently alternate like that. So your mind is always focused on the breath. Or he dwells observing the states that arise in the body. Okay? Here body can mean any of the five senses. For example, let's take numbness or pain, right? You notice some kind of numbness arising, a bit of pain arising. Okay? So you notice it arising. And then you go back to your meditation. Or, number 5, he dwells observing states that pass away in the body. Sometimes you might notice the pain going away. Okay. You can feel the pain going away, you can observe it. This is not too big a pain, some minor, maybe numbness, you know. But more often, it will be number 6. Or he dwells observing the states that arise and pass away in the body. So you watch the pain arising. Sometimes there's peaking and then passing away. Okay? So these are different ways of watching whatever arises in your body. The so-called Satipatthana method. Actually, when they say Vipassana, this is the same thing also. Or else he maintains the mindfulness that there is a body merely for knowing and awareness. Okay, this one going to be of Dharma. So all you do is you understand this body is impermanent. You do not identify with the body. You simply, you begin to have this deeper wisdom, the real nature of the body. This becomes even more interesting when you do the 4 elements meditation, which are the details of which I'll go into at the right time. When you begin to see the body actually is all impermanent. So we don't identify with the body, we don't see the body as something permanent or having an essence or unchanging. We see the breath as the body. For example, you may even feel, wow, I am this breath, and this breath is rising, falling, rising, falling. So different experiences may arise. You begin to experience impermanence, for example. It's possible also. A lot of beautiful experiences may arise, each person differently. Some people, they are by nature very spiritual, and they feel so joyful as a result of this. Now, so once you do this, you get the benefit. And he dwells independent, not clinging to anything in this world. This world means what? Your senses. You are no more troubled by your five senses. You are at peace with yourself. Okay? What you see, what you hear, smell, taste, touch, you are at peace with them. You get along easier with your senses. Okay? You are at peace with yourself. So you are not dependent on seeing nice things, hearing nice things, and so on. And you are not dependent on other people for your joy. Of course, you go on doing this. This is a description of a stream winner. No? But here, you've got to make an effort. At the end of the meditation, that's how you feel. You are happy just like that because you are meditation. You are not. Your happiness does not come from outside. It comes from inside you. And that kind of happiness you cannot lose. It is internal. Okay? And that bhikkhu is how a monk dwells observing the body in the body. Alright? So that's how watching the breath brings inner peace to you and deep joy, meditative joy. So this part ends. Yeah? Any questions? So the timing is just nice for this first part. So just remember where we end here, just to mark it. So next round we go on to the 4 postures and a few other meditation methods. Any questions? Yes?
The body is not well, so how will it actually serve?
The body is...
it affects your meditation as well.
You mean someone who's not well, is it? When the person is sick. Even when the person is in pain, he can still meditate. Of course, if he has meditation experience earlier on, it's much easier. It is difficult to straight away teach a person who is very sick, a bit difficult. Especially if this person has no meditation experience at all, a bit difficult. But it's still possible if you are experienced in dealing with such people, especially if you know palliative care, you're working in a hospice at the same time you know meditation, that's really good. I think we're heading in that direction. Nowadays, of course, you find some professional nurses or doctors, they do use meditation. Unfortunately, their meditation is not really spiritual like the Buddhist. So some of my friends in the West, they tell me, oh yeah, they try all kind of methods, but it didn't really work for them. And yet when they come here and do the Buddhist meditation, it works better. The reason is because the doctor or the nurse does not himself get into the calm state. He's just giving instructions. Sit down, do this, do that, but he's not calm himself, so it's not easy. But meditation is tricky. You have to be calm yourself in order to make this other person calm. So, what you can do is, if you know this person well, this person is sick, you use something this person is comfortable with. Simple breath method. For example, okay, can you feel your breath coming in? Can you feel your breath going out? Okay. And then, okay, when you breathe in, just say, may I be well, your breath comes in. And when you breathe out, imagine all your pain going out like that. So you have to innovate depending on the needs of the person. Alright? On the other hand, if you know meditation well, then even as you lie sick there, you just focus on your breath, and then you notice pain arising and you use that as a meditation object, you find the pain remains in the body. It does not affect the mind, as mentioned in the Piya Sutta. So you use that principle. Of course, you can even tell yourself at the start, my body may be sick, but my mind will not be sick. And then you go on to your meditation. So that's why the starting suttas are helpful. You have all these things to remind you. Keep your mind ready to go to the practice. So it's not just theory. You have practice. That's the meaning of practice. Yeah?
Buddhist method of meditation builds mental resilience.
Definitely, yes.
Whereas secular meditation does not do as much.
Yeah, I mean it's just beginning now. I suspect, I've been telling my friends in the West, I said there'll come a time when these people who use meditation to heal others, they realize they have to go for 6-7 years of training. You can't just take it as a summer course or a few months, You've got to really spend a few years, like doctoring. You've got to go into meditative state and all those things. Then only you can really heal others with meditation. Okay? Any other questions? No more questions, huh? Okay, so we'll stop here for today. Let us do a short reflection. The suttas, as we all know by now, teaches us how to calm our minds and how to meditate. So the suttas are very valuable documents. Sometimes in the suttas the Buddha gave us very short teachings, like mantras, as in the Nakulapita Sutta, where the Buddha says, although my body is in pain, my mind will not have pain. So all these teachings remind us how to be ready, how to prepare ourselves for meditation. And once we start meditating, this calmness and wisdom help us to understand the suttas even better. So when we combine these two, then our lives become more and more focused, more peaceful, more wise. Reflecting in this way is very good mental karma. But the power of such karma may in this life itself we attain mental peace and joy, happiness. And above all, may we in this life itself attain spiritual liberation, namely stream winning. In this moment of peace, let us radiate our loving kindness to all those people who are important to us, all those people working here, all those people who work for the Dharma. May they all be well, may they be happy. And those whom the Dharma have not touched, may they see the Dharma in themselves and be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.